All right, welcome to OA Week 2025, everyone. We will get started in just a moment while we wait for some more participants to trickle in. Okay, well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for OA Week 2025. My name is Carly LaRoche, and I'm a member of the GOA-ON Secretariat. Please note that this session is being recorded. OA Week is presented by 4 sponsoring organizations. First, GOA-ON, the Global Ocean Acidification Observing Network. Second, NOAA, the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Third, the IAEA OAICC, the International Atomic Energy Agency Ocean Acidification International Coordination Center. And last but not least, the IOC, the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. GOA-ON was established in 2012 with just a handful of members at the beginning. Since then, GOA-ON has grown immensely to almost over 1,200 members from over 110 countries. GOA-ON also consists of 11 regional hubs, which span across continents and oceanographic regions. We'll be hearing from most of them throughout OA Week and have representation from multiple hubs in our session today. If you're not a member yet, you can join GOA-ON today by visiting goaon.org, and we'll drop that link in the chat in a little bit. OA Week debuted in 2020 and returned in 2021 when events and conferences were postponed due to COVID-19. Following the successful in-person symposium on the ocean in a high CO2 world in 2022, OA Week has become an annual event to maintain momentum around OA research and provide a virtual platform for the ocean acidification community to exchange their latest findings. We are thrilled to present a wide range of ocean acidification topics and speakers from around the world. A few notes on housekeeping before we get started. During the presentation, all participants are in listen-only mode. You are welcome to type any questions into the questions and answers box, which is located on the bottom of the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll be monitoring incoming questions and we'll pose them to our speakers during the question and answer section, which will begin immediately after the presentation. For the discussion, you can also use the raise hand function in the toolbox at the bottom of your screen, and we'll call on you to ask you your question directly. And with that, I would like to introduce your moderator for this session, Alex Puritz. Alex is the Human Dimensions Research Manager at UCAR on behalf of NOAA OAP. In this capacity, she coordinates OAP research on regional vulnerability and other aspects of OAP's competitive funding portfolio. She is passionate about grant making and capacity building in the ocean acidification research space. Alex also serves as the national coordinator of the Coastal Acidification Networks, or the CANs, which are regional networks of diverse ocean users interested in addressing OA in the United States. CANs play a critical role in supporting regional monitoring, community engagement, and capacity building, and sharing topics relevant to OA, including adaptation and mitigation strategies. In addition, Alex is currently participating in the Yale School of the Environment Certificate Program in Urban Climate Leadership. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us today and for moderating and leading this session, and I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Carly, for the introduction, and thank you to our audience for tuning in around the globe. This session is on the co-development of research. So we will be focusing on the co-development of OA research in different local and regional contexts. We're going to be hearing from researchers on the ground in Africa, Asia, and North America. Our speakers are going to discuss what co-development means to each of them, and we'll cover best practices as well as obstacles and challenges. Each speaker will provide a 5 to 7 minute presentation, and it will be followed by a panel discussion at the end where there will be an opportunity for questions from the audience. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So with that, thank you so much to all three of our speakers for joining today, and we will begin with our first speaker. So I would like to introduce Dr. Jan Newton. Dr. Jan Newton is a principal senior oceanographer with the Applied Physics Lab of the University of Washington and an affiliate with the UW School of Oceanography and the School of Marine and Environmental Affairs, both in the UW College of the Environment. She is executive director of NANUS, the Northwest Association of Networked Ocean Observing Systems, which is part of the USI's Regional Association for the Pacific Northwest. She is a co-director of the Washington Ocean Acidification Center and the co-chair of GOA-ON, the Global Ocean Acidification Observing Network. Jan is a biological oceanographer who has studied the physical, chemical, and biological dynamics of Puget Sound and coastal Washington, including understanding effects from climate and humans on water properties. So with that, I will pass it over to you, Jan.
Thank you so much, Alex, and it's really a pleasure to be here today to talk to you all in the audience about co-development of research. And thank you, Alex, for coining this session, which is a really important one. So I have been a researcher for a while, and I would say that I got my PhD in 1989, and I've really seen research change fundamentally in terms of this concept of co-development. And to me, it's something that has always made sense because I work as an ocean observer, and I think as you're trying to understand a location and how it works, it's really important to consider the communities who have lived there. And in my case, working with indigenous peoples, have lived there since time immemorial and have been observing that system for a very long time. And so I have a few slides about a project that was funded by NOAA's Ocean Acidification Program, where they really underscored getting at regional vulnerability to ocean acidification. And I'd like to tell you about how our community put something together that was really, I think, an effective strategy and some of our lessons learned. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so my first message is, and that's the beautiful Olympic coast that you see in the background. I live in Seattle, Washington. This coastline is all the way out to the Pacific Ocean. You see a lot of names here, a lot of authors, and that's kind of my first message, is that it takes a large team. And I was the lead PI, but the second name there, Melissa Poe, was the co-lead PI. She's a social scientist. I'm a biological oceanographer, and that was a really important aspect of this work, is that it integrated social and ecological sciences. And that was key to making headway that was actually actionable for the communities that are depending on the ocean there. After Melissa's name, you see other scientists, Simone Allen from NOAA, Sam Sidlecki from the University of Connecticut, and a host of others. Then that second line, those are all co-PIs from the 4 treaty tribes out on the coast. Those are scientists who work for the tribes. And then under that are tribal members who also work for the tribe and are there to talk about the social science aspects. Then under that, you have people representing various agencies and postdocs and technical help. But the point is, it's a lot of names. And when I went to put in an abstract for a meeting that I was going to talk about this, I couldn't put in all the author names because the form didn't allow this many authors. So that's, word number one, that we need to be thinking about large teams. Okay, so our goal is to provide this assessment of coupled social ecological variability effects from ocean acidification that was based on new social science that Melissa Poe led, and a synthesis of data and existing sorry, I gotta hide this so I can read my own slide, and model projections. And it was great that we had Samantha Sidlecki's model, but that was relevant to the Olympic coast, its resources and its inhabitants, including the participating coastal treaty tribes. And we did it in a way that strengthened their capacity for adaptation to changing conditions, but that was also transferable to other locations. The first thing we had to do was kind of conceive of the lay of the land. And my big aha moment was, if you had asked me to draw the Olympic coast ecosystem as a biological oceanographer, I never would have had people in the ecosystem. And that is an embarrassingly obvious fact, that people are a part of the ecosystem. But many of us trained in oceanography or other of the sciences, natural sciences. Oh gosh, it's all natural science. But anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. We don't get trained to think about the human aspect other than a stressor, right? And so that was a big aha moment. Okay, this is a complex slide, but let me walk you through it. These are the steps that we realized it was going to take to do this, and our values around the outer aspect of the wheel. The first thing was to scope the place and what we were really going to focus on. That needed to be done by everybody. As Melissa worked with the tribal leaders to understand the role of different resources and well-being, the oceanographers and marine biologists analyzed the data. Samantha was able to project future states. We assessed frequency, duration, and location of stress. But like good scientists like we are, we came up with over 300 graphics of how things were going to change and different metrics and that sort of thing. What we needed to do was work with the results from the social science to understand the role of the various organisms, various timings in what the community needed in order for optimizing well-being. So our evaluation of risks to resources took that into account, and we were able to come up with not 300 plots, but more like what we called species stories about when and where the razor clam population would be more susceptible. And there was actually a geographic north-south gradient in that. That's really useful and actionable information. And the rest of the wheel is really the community in the driver's seat there to think about how they want to react to that. So moving on quickly, what were the challenges and lessons learned? The biggest one is that such a project will take time. This was conceived as a 3-year project, and I'm sure we had a no-cost extension or two. And unfortunately, COVID hit us at the end, or not towards the end, and hijacked some of our time. And we're excited that we're going to be able to continue this research. Some people don't want to get involved in co-development because they recognize, wow, this is going to take time. I have no idea how to do it. And my message there at the bottom is, if you don't have a lot of time, consider what your achievable goals are. Is it just to really network with a community to understand what their needs are, instead of addressing their needs? Just understanding what those needs are is a project in and of itself. So that's really important. Considering the capabilities of all partners. In our case, many of these tribes are they're small in population, and so people are assuming many roles in order for that nation to to function. And so if you say, well, I need this next week, it's just not going to happen. And so considering that is really important. The time necessary to achieve transdisciplinary research is much greater than monodisciplinary, and it doesn't typically scale with the time scale of often funder proposals. So, go in with your eyes open and really try to scope what you think you can do. Yeah. Data, and of course, I don't want to go into too much the data part of it because that's not as important, but it was a challenge in the sense that biological data sets were established for different reasons, and that took us a lot more time. But what is very important is the need to consider Indigenous sovereignty in terms of data. We talk about FAIR, but there's also CARE, and I meant to put the acronym of what that stands for, but you can look it up. And it's important that this is done a priori before you get started. Have agreements on how you're going to use the data, what will occur in publishing, and to do this upfront, not as a, oh yeah, and now we're getting to this point of it. So that's really important. Lastly, people. Our reward system or structure in the sciences typically doesn't reward collaborative research, though I really think that is changing. And so again, going into this with your eyes open, and to me, what was so important is the value of this project in producing actionable information has gotten attention. And that is something that, especially as universities are, really aware of limited budgets and needing to be societally relevant, that translates really well to the management of your research institutions. So I think that's important. Staying patient is really important, and understanding that, there's going to be bumps in the road and you're just going to have to absorb them. But also think about, how do you sustain the relationships after the project is over? And that's something I don't necessarily have an answer for, but building that trust and trying to continue to be an information resource and understand how the work that you did is working or not is important. So that can seem overwhelming, but my last message to you all is that everyone in this project walked away from it saying, like, that was one of the most meaningful things I've done. So even though there's a lot of challenges, there's an awful lot of payoff too. And I'll leave you with this URL on the Washington Sea Grant site. There's a couple of videos, one short, one 4 minutes, and about our project. And I just really want to thank NOAA and the UW College of the Environment for supporting this research, and for the opportunity to talk to you about why I felt it was a really wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jan. I love hearing about this project. I think it's a great example of how you can integrate the social and ecological sciences. And I loved how you said, talking about actionable science for communities, and also the importance of large teams. So thank you so much. Next, we are going to turn to our second speaker, Dr. Punyasloke Bhadury. Dr. Punyasloke Bhadury is a professor of biological sciences in IISER, Kolkata. He has published more than 80 peer-reviewed papers in international journals. His research interests include biocomplexity of microbial systems, including in mangroves, biogeochemical cycling and sea level rise, nature-based solutions to ecosystem restoration, and developing technologies for biomonitoring of coastal biotopes. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Punyasloke. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Great to be here with the fellow co-panelists. It's a great, it in itself is a fantastic co-development exercise. So I'm going to very briefly talk about this project which we are working. It's a sustainable mangrove aquaculture project, but this project is driven by the communities. And it has become very imperative that the understanding, the knowledge of way is vital towards the sustainability of the mangrove aquaculture. Next slide, please. So just again want to reiterate that 40% of the global population resides within the 100 kilometers of the coastlines, and most of this population represent the indigenous and local communities. Therefore, their knowledge and their voices are very, very important when you are talking about the co-development. Next slide, please. I think the Way Week is a fantastic example which really bridges in this knowledge of the regional hubs. Many of these regional hubs are located along the coastlines or connecting coastal countries which have indigenous communities, as Jan has very rightly pointed out, and therefore these knowledge can be very nicely leveraged for co-development that would be driven by the communities for the wider sustainability of the global ocean. Next slide. I wanted to highlight because I work in the region where mangroves are very, very important, and you might be knowing that globally there has been a decline in the mangroves. One of the main reasons for the decline has been the unsustainable aquaculture practices that are being followed in some parts of the globe, resulting in the loss of mangroves. And that has also led to a huge loss in terms of about 200 billion US dollars revenue, over the years, which probably is not, it cannot be compensated in any other way. So this loss, along with the ocean acidification and other stressors, are magnifying on a regional and global scale. Next slide, please. Okay, so I wanted to highlight the previous slide. So I wanted to highlight this photo that you're seeing. This is a classic example what happens when you cut the mangroves and you grow the aquaculture ponds or develop the aquaculture farms, because you have to supply the food, which is mostly in these cases are shrimps and of course other marine bioresources. So that's also the case where we work. Next slide. In Sundarbans, which is at the tip of the Bay of Bengal of Northern Indian Ocean. It's one of the world's largest mangroves, essentially the largest contiguous mangrove of the world. More than 2 million people are directly dependent on the coastal bioresources that Sundarbans are. And just like the global trend of loss of mangroves in Sundarbans, also there has been loss of mangroves because of unsustainable coastal aquaculture practices. So to turn the tide, there has been a development of a new approach called integrated mangrove aquaculture. Next slide. So this is what it works. I will just take 30 seconds on this. Essentially, this is not like an ordinary coastal aquaculture farm. Here, the idea is that you plant them along the boundaries of the aquaculture pond, and these mangroves will grow. The leaves of the mangroves will fall onto these aquaculture farms. Those leaves will undergo a process called mangrove litter breakdown, which essentially will provide the necessary food and of course the defense of the bioresources, and ultimately it's a win-win situation for the farmer who is practicing it, and of course the sustainability of the products, which are typically organic in nature, no contamination of pesticides or no contamination of antibiotic residues in this. Next slide. So why is it important? I mean, the reason is that this IMA is important because in IMA there is a spatial and temporal changes in terms of the pH where we work. Because what happens is from the estuaries surrounding the mangroves, the water is being drained, and every 15 days that water is being taken out. It's a natural system which is being followed. So basically mimicking the mangroves. And this mimicking results in the breakdown of the mangrove litter fall, the tannic acid and the gallic acid, and this essentially drives resources that are required for the shrimp to grow. So essentially farmer don't have to put any artificial feed in the pond for growing the shrimps. Next slide, please. So why this is important? Now, this is important not only from the shrimp perspective, but the communities have understood that because they are drawing this estuarine water, any changes in the estuarine surface water carbon chemistry will have impact on the productivity ponds and the long-term sustainability. So over the years, the communities have been measuring the best practices. Have been measuring the surface water carbonate chemistry parameters, for example, pH and total alkalinity over the years, and this has resulted. Can you go to the next slide, please? This kind of data set that each data set of almost 17 years we have from the Sundarbans, that is helping us to understand the changes that are happening in the estuarine surface water of the Sundarbans. And this entire data set that I'm showing to you are driven by the communities. These are the community people. They are measuring on a weekly basis, providing this data. We are revalidating this data from time to time, and then we are coming back to the farmers, trying to develop strategies of how the IMA ponds can you adapt to this changing surface water gradients in terms of the carbonate chemistry. Next slide. So to end up saying that why it matters, why the knowledge of the ocean acidification and the rich knowledge of the indigenous communities, integration of these matters in IMA ponds. The answer is very simple, because mangrove litter dynamics, the food resources, as I very rightly pointed out, are driven by pH. So any small changes in the pH will have consequences, and the farmers have understood that. They have been doing this practice for a long period of time, and the scientific knowledge has the traditional knowledge further to address this question. Next slide, please. Okay, so I think one of the, although this is a running project, but some of the challenges that I think is being faced, not only locally or regionally, but I think this is a case where IMAs are being practiced globally, whether in Asia or in parts of Africa or in South America. I think one of the biggest problems is that when you're talking about coastal aquaculture, we talk about the insurance of the aquaculture ponds. But when you're talking about integrated mangrove aquaculture, unfortunately, insurance of this of the IMA ponds do not take into account this coastal ocean acidification. So the communities have for the first time gone back to the insurers and highlighted the need to have this kind of information when the insurance is being considered, if there is any untoward incident, such as as a result of which there will be death of the resources. The second global problem is that the best practices used in IMA ponds do not integrate the way. And that has got consequences in terms of the uncertainty of the yield of marine bioresources. And last but not the least, I think what is very clear is that regionally and globally, that more and more aquaculture ponds and the IMA ponds are facing issues of shrimp with diseases and many other bioresources too. So therefore, the measurements, the systematic measurements, the capacity co-development that here, which I'm showing as an example, of course, is ongoing, could be very crucial, that could shape the long-term sustainability of the IMA, and of course, bringing the financial responders into this picture. So this is something which is very, very critical, and the hand-holding exercises are extremely important. I think I'll stop out here and hope that this kind of information will be useful when we are looking at south to south and south to north scales. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's really interesting to hear about integrated mangrove aquaculture, and especially having OA monitoring being done by communities directly. Thank you so much. With that, we're going to move on to our third speaker, Magak Adell. Joining us from the University of Nairobi, Magak is a marine geologist working on the Kenyan coast seascape. He currently serves as the lead partner in the Global Coast Pilot Sites, Kenya, an initiative under the Ocean Decade Program Coast Predict. His research work drives action by integrating science and knowledge towards the rising challenge of OA. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Magak.
Thank you, Alexandra. Just confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, thank you. So thank you all for joining. Nice to see everyone joining, and also my colleagues who are joining from Kenya. Yeah, so I'll just go straight to my presentation. And thank you, Kali, for sharing. Yeah, so our research has been mostly anchored on co-development, whereby, as Dr. Newton was talking, there's an element that starts as a small seed, but it's always growing, and it grows beyond borders. It's something that starts as an idea, but it grows something that is much bigger than you. Next slide, Kenley. Yeah, so these are my colleagues whom we've been working with, and they're from different regions in the world. And the fact that we can come together despite and beat elements of race, elements of where you are coming from, the originality, is just something beautiful in co-development that mostly people don't see. And even the integration of interdisciplinary collaboration and how they're very important to the co-development process. Next slide, please. Yeah, so one of the case study that I would like to highlight is the Global Coast Network that has been growing. And from the slide, you can see that we have 130 pilot sites across 66 countries. And you can contribute by just adding your country to the dot. And when one of the data that we get from this, we share with the Emonet platform, whereby the global community can access whatever is happening at the grassroots level. Next slide. Yeah, so these are some of the priority impact areas. We have nature-based solutions and resolutions. We have sustainable food production to support for the mariculture support system. We have disaster risk reduction and prediction through the real-time forecasting of extreme weather events. We have operation at sea to ensure safety at sea. We have integrated coastal zone management and the MSP, the Marine Spatial Planning, and all these impact areas integrated. Then we realized that the major problems that are affecting our sea areas, not only the community, but both our biodiversity change and human health, like you realize that our approach in this is very holistic and multi-disciplinary collaborated, bringing everyone on board to ensure that there's an element of monitoring and prediction, but not only that, there's also what the local community benefits, especially through the element of pollution mapping and its effect on human health and biodiversity loss. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Okay. Sorry. You can just go back once more. The previous slide. Yeah. Thank you. So, how did we get here? From the photos, you can see various institutions that we have been working with. There's the Synchro. There's also the GOA coming in. But all through, we have been enabling dialogue with industry, dialogue with community, technology best practices, by ensuring that the ocean technology is available for local community resilience. And from the last photo there, you can see that is us in around February of this year, in one of the workshop, and we were holding some of the equipments that we use at sea. You can see the tide gauges by CMC. You can see different equipment, but all in all, that these developments can lead to something tangible, can lead to something that is holistic, can lead to something that is beyond borders can lead to something that is promising, because those equipments that we were carrying there, actually, we just gave them to the local fishermen, especially the tide boy, and just to help them in their local activities in fishing. Next slide. Yeah, so this is one of our pilot sites that we have in Kenya. It's in Pate Island. And one of the things that we've been trying to do in this pilot site is incorporate all those key primary impact areas. And we narrowed down to 3, that is monitoring and prediction of extreme weather event through the real-time forecasting, and also the element of mariculture support system to boost the food production, because one of the problems that we are having in the South Globe is the element of food security, and also being that the local communities are always there, then we have been monitoring pollution impact and their and the element of biodiversity loss and how they are affecting the local community through their health. Next slide, please. Yeah, so from this, you can see the geological map of the area, and you can see we were monitoring the coastline just at the Pate Island, and you can see on the legend there's the coastline as at December 2005, then there's the coastline as at December 2004. Then besides that, because this is more of a broad-based approach, we were trying to look at the effect of this, especially with also the element of the geology around. And you can see the effects, especially in this that I will just show in the next slide. But you realize that there's need for the element of conservation of geomorphological features, and also the element of these rocks being we have the ultra basic rock, we have the marine unconsolidated sediment that even act as a repository for past environmental condition. And there's just need to incorporate this to ensure that that our output after the study is very holistic in terms of methodology and in terms of interdisciplinary collaboration. Next slide. Okay, so this is some of the just simple arithmetic that we were sharing with the local community. So so we did a sampling for around 5 areas in the coastline. And we were just monitoring it, especially through calculation, the change in shoreline prediction. And we were telling the local community that this is not hard. This is something that even through simple arithmetic, we are able to see that the rate of change per year is actually around 20.5 meters per year. And when someone sees that they can do this, then they were like, wow. So this is happening in my community, and it is something I can become part of. So we are really trying to offer a very simple analogies to the current problem, so that the people who are the majority in this coastal community can actually become part of understanding the problem they are facing, and through that will also ensure when they understand the problem, they will be part of the conservation. Next slide. Yeah, so these are the rapid shift that we are experiencing in our pilot site. We have 2 pilot sites in Kenya. We have the Diani Chale Beach, and we also have the Pate Island. But these are the rapid shifts. So we have the rise in sea level through the extreme heat waves. We have storm surges. We have ocean acidification, and that is the main theme, especially in the OA week, being that how can we come together through the integration of knowledge and technology towards the rising challenge of ocean acidification. Then we also have the coastal geomorphology and geology that are very impactful in terms of preservations of of maybe the touristic features around, but also the cultural heritage around. Next slide. Yeah, so this is a video that I would just like us to play. It's a combination of science and also the oratory skills through the spoken word, just to explain the problem that is happening. So Carly, I'd just like to request you to play the slide.
Apologies, Magak. It looks like we don't have the capability to play it, but so you can just continue on with the presentation. Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry for that. Yeah. Okay, so it is just a video talking about the effects of ocean acidification, especially through the MCDR work, that is the marine carbon dioxide removal, especially having a case study of what we are trying to incorporate in our pilot sites. The next slide, please. Yeah, so these are the technologies for coastal resilience that our co-development as grassroots level is trying to incorporate. So we have the ocean actions, we have the multidisciplinary initiative, we have the local champions, we have the ethical data collection, we have the coastal resilience hub, we have the adoption of the best practices. And this is, I would just like to give a brief, this happened when during our workshop, so some of the actual workshop that we were having in South Africa, actually, as we were presenting the work after the discussion, one of the local communities presented us with that, and it just sees, it actually uplifts the element of incorporating the local communities and how they can also use their visual skills and their oratory skills to be to impact research. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the team we are working with, and just below you can also scan the code just to be part of the OA community, because ocean acidification is one of the elements, or is one of the wings that we are actively working on. And thank you for having a listening ear. Back to you, Alexandra.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. And I really enjoyed hearing about how Global Coast takes like a holistic approach of looking at impacts not only on human health, but also biodiversity. So with that, thank you so much to all of our speakers for presenting. Now we're going to shift into a bit of a panel discussion and Q&A. So again, I'd like to encourage everyone, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, whether it's a specific question about one of the projects you heard or more in general about the concept of co-development. So I believe Carly just put a note in the chat for you all on that. But if we don't have any questions yet, I have a few, so love to hear from our panelists. Just kind of more broadly, I would love to hear, in your opinion, what does the co-development of OA research mean to you? And feel free to unmute yourselves, our speakers, if you want to address this question first, please. We'd love to hear your opinion. Go for it.
Sure. Oh, you want to go, PV? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think after you, Jen. Yeah, I'll go after you. Yeah.
Sure. You know, Alex, that's a great question. I think co-development can mean a lot of things. But to me, it's people with different backgrounds, different bodies of knowledge, getting together to co-develop something together. But before, there's a couple other co-words that we should think about. One is co-design and one is co-produce. And I think all of those are important to consider. Co-design is so important because so often, I see well-meaning people say, oh, here's our proposal. Do you want to be partner in it? That's not the way to do it, when you've already formulated the questions and the needs and all of that sort of thing. It's really important to get people there at the start. And then co-producing is also that okay, you've designed something that's good, you've developed that together, but co-producing is doing it in partnership, and both Magak, I'm sorry if I botched your name, and PB, their programs really exemplified this, co-producing it together so that people feel that their efforts are being utilized and recognized together. So there's some initial thoughts.
Thank you, Jan. Yeah, that focus to also include co-design is critical. So thank you for bringing that up. PB?
Yep. I think Jan has already very nicely answered the great question that you brought up. Don't have much to add except saying that if you in a small island developing state, the community there, what it means for that person in that small island country or state is essentially having ensuring the knowledge that he carries with him or her continues, ensure that there is the economic stabilities, all these processes are all are very integral components.
Thanks, PB. I think your audio was cutting in and out a little bit, so we didn't hear everything. Not sure if you can still hear us.
The video line. So I was trying to say that in an SIDS country, probably the co-development, the co-development integrates co-design and that the knowledge socio-economic is
Thanks. We're still having trouble hearing you, so maybe try turning off your video perhaps, and maybe that will help moving forward. But thank you for your contribution.
Okay, maybe I can also say something.
Sure, of course. Thank you.
Okay, for me, when we talk about co-development, is just as I was saying, it's more of a broad-based initiative that incorporates more of one generation of people, and also it is more of a community-based approach where science is not only based on the scientific findings, but there's also the integration of the indigenous community that the output that is being designed at last is very categorical in ensuring that the rights of people are actually incorporated, the cultures of people, so that the people embrace the development. So it is a co-development. It's that it's not only the long-term objective or the traditional objective where science was skewed towards scientists, but there's an element of community so that the results are more of community-based. Thank you.
Thank you, Magak. Any other points people would like to make for this, or if not, happy to move on to some questions that we're getting in the chat. All right. With that, Carly, do you want to bring up some of the questions that are coming through?
Yeah, sounds good. We have a couple of questions coming in through the chat, which is great. Thank you all for submitting your questions. So I'll start with a question from Chandrasekhara Sarma. As a non-science practitioner, I am building capacity through OTGA trainings in data management and co-design. How can I contribute to OR's outcomes 2 and 7 by translating OA science into decision-ready insights for policy, finance, and communities? So I think these are great questions for Jan and PB as our OR's representatives. So maybe Jan, I'll have you start off.
Sure. Thank you, Chandrasekhara, for that question. I'm going to also put something, I hope you can see the reply. I put in a URL to the website for ORS that has recently been developed that really focuses on getting knowledge into action and provides some user tools. So first of all, what I wanted to say is thank you for reaching out. You're exactly the kind of perspective that we need. And I really encourage you to reach out to the Secretariat, and we'll hear from PB in just a bit here. He co-leads the ORS 7 along with Jesse Turner. And I think they would love to have your involvement. But do check out this website. I want to make sure that folks see this because it has a lot of resources. Okay, that's my message. PB, over to you.
Thank you, Jan. Just to add, Chandrasekhar, we welcome your participation. Please get in touch with us, with the Secretariat. And if you go to the link that Jan has shared, you can see this fantastic stories, the success stories of the ORS. And also, I think many of these stories are also co-learning, because what is happening in one part of the world, you can actually learn from there and also integrate in another part of the world in a local and in a regional way. So I think it's a great thing. Please join with us, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And actually, PB, we have one additional question for you that came through in the chat. Someone asked, the mangrove ecosystems coexist with shrimp farming, and from the time series observation, pH can get very low. How has this acidity extreme impacted the algae community as shrimp does prey on them? So if you could share some insight on that.
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So the pH changes has resulted in changes in the nutrient stoichiometry in the mangroves and also in these shrimp ponds. As a result, we are seeing more cases of hypoxia or sustained hypoxia, rather I would say. So that is resulting in the spreading of viral diseases in shrimp. So essentially, there's a strong interplay with the disease and the pH. And if you see, the last point which I highlighted in the presentation is the insurance, the world of insurance does not take into account this uncertainty of the change in pH consequences for spreading of disease. So that's a typical non-parametric insurance strategy which is being followed, but we need to really change that approach, and that is what ORS is trying to do, working with the policymakers and the funders and the insurers to see that these kind of very important components are being integrated in the thing, and the insurance scheme is pragmatic locally and regionally.
Thank you, PB. And also, yeah, thanks to Carly for putting the link for ORS in the chat so that you all can check that out. And we welcome you to be in touch with the Secretariat as well for participation in ORS. All right, I have another question that I would love to ask our panelists. I know you touched on this in your presentations, but love to hear what has been a specific obstacle or challenge that you've experienced in the co-development process and how you addressed that. Would anyone like to go first?
Yeah, I can go first.
Thank you.
Okay, so in our case, the major challenge has been where the local communities don't really trust your desired objective, especially for them. In the case that previous scientific work that has been happening in their environment has only been inclusive for a moment, but after the research is done, then their work is also done. So the long-term goal of the research is not skewed towards the community benefit in terms of long-term, and that has led us to really think of what are the best practices that the community will want. There's the element that we are trying, that's the element of storytelling, because most communities resonate with stories, because stories has a way of bringing them together, both historically. I think anyone likes stories, and the element of just making science as a story. It's really productive in that people find the connecting dots to the long-term objective of the research, and also they easily identify with the stories because they have been part of the environment. So when you bring stories in terms of ocean acidification, they have been part of that, they have seen it, maybe not in the scientific lens, but in the indigenous knowledge lens. And you realize that when you tell them, they're like, wow, so this has been happening. So you realize that by doing that, the integration, then you realize that the end-time goal is that it may be challenging for a start, but you realize that slowly they identify with your research project. Thank you.
Thank you, Magak. And I love what you said of making science as a story. That's really great. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, PB, would you like to go next? Not sure if we lost him again. Jan, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I really want to comment on what Magak just said. That resonates with me so much, and I just love how, your experiences in Africa make so much sense and mirror my experiences here on the west coast of North America. The stories, and I even mentioned we turned our results into species stories, and there's so many ways that could have gone wrong. One is that, first of all, we knew some of the key species. You can't ask indigenous people which species are important to you. Duh, all of them, right? But there are some ones that have particular meaning, and in the case of the coastal treaty tribes, razor clams are something not only for sustenance, but also it's a marketable thing that they have a specific dig for school when school's about to start, so that they can buy school supplies and school clothes and all of that sort of thing. And so focusing on that, but not just focusing on razor clams, understanding from the communities where they found the razor clams, right? And these beaches up north and south along the coast. Then using our models to go in and actually make projections about the timing and understanding the life cycle of the razor clam and when they spawn, and being able to look at how that might change, and then seeing a gradient, and then being able to go back and tell that story, So it was just the perfect blending of being able to listen and understand, have that guide the science that you do, and then being able to translate that back into a story. And yeah, so I think that's really powerful. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. And PB, if you have anything you'd like to add, we're talking about what's been an obstacle or challenge and how you've addressed that in the co-development process.
Yeah, I would like to echo where Jan in the completed her sentence. I think the voices of communities are very, very important. We need to honor those voices. And I think the top-down approach never really works. And this is one of the challenges that we initially faced. And you reverse the approach. You need to bring the communities into the center, in the center, and integrate all the other components. So essentially, bottom-up approach is absolutely essential And I think one of the things we Jan also highlighted in her presentation is the communication is continuous. It cannot stop. So that's something which is very critical. And last but not the least, I think purely from the other perspective of the challenges are, any co-development steps involve financing. Without proper financing mechanisms, nothing can be successful. I think that's one of the big challenges of OA and blue financing. The blue financing world is rather very slow to catch up with the realities of the world. And I think that tide is changing, no doubt about it. We need to do a lot more, and that would bring in more confidence in the communities, leveraging their knowledge, their rich socio-cultural history, and ensuring the wider sustainable ocean in a changing planet.
Yeah, I'm going to hop in and comment on what PB just said. He brought up financing, and that, in my comments about stories, that was a solution in like there's so many ways that your research can go, and that's a really great solution. But I didn't mention the challenge of the financing. That is a huge one, and trying to fit co-development research into these, okay, here you've got 1 year of money, go. It's just, yeah, that's really challenging. And I think another thing that PB mentioned is just the importance of maintaining communication. It's so important. So I don't have a solution for the finance challenge, but I can say that as more and more of these powerful examples from around the globe are, showcased, that I'm hopeful that people can see that there is a way that is very successful and does bring people together, and so yeah, so that hopefully can make the change that we know that we need. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for bringing up that financing piece. Obviously, that's a critical component of implementing the research. So one more question that I have that I'd love to get each of your opinions on are what advice or tips would you give to a researcher that was interested in co-developing OA research, maybe with a particular group or community? What's one piece of advice that you would give to them?
Okay,
Maybe
yeah. Maybe I can go first. I will say that there's need to be a good observer to what's happening around you, and be very keen to identify which one in specific is the problem. So many people want to do everything, but you realize that with the co-development, there's need of, just from the term co-development, there's need for co, so meaning there's need for that collaboration, there's need for that co-integration, there's need for that co-labor, there's need for co-research. So it's just more of identify what you can do, and also just embrace the idea of working together, especially people from different fields. Can they actually identify with what you're working on and offer more of other solutions that will ensure that your work is not limited, in terms of just focusing on one line of thought, but that your work is covers different disciplines of research. So maybe those young scientists transitioning from school can look into that, and at last they'll find a landing that is not only one man's island, but an island of so many people of equal mind. Yeah.
Thank you, Magak. Jan or PB?
I'll go next. Listen, yeah, it just really underscoring what Magak said, really making sure that you're listening. You know, I just got back yesterday from working with my class up in the islands, and I'm really inspired by our students these days, I will say these days, who I feel do get what co-development is about. They want to help, they want to make a difference, and they're not just saying, how can I get my PhD the fastest? How can I get the biggest lab? You know, they're thinking about how can I make a difference? I want to do something that has impact and that can help, you know, communities. And so that's really refreshing. And I think the most important thing is how to harness that. And one of the things I mentioned in my talk is try to scope a project that you think can be achieved. Don't try to do everything. This is what Magak just got done saying. Don't try to do everything because you'll wear yourself out and it may not be successful. And then that leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. And so be patient, know that you're not going to change the world tomorrow, but really listen and think about what you can do. The other thing is just keep that passion for your science in your heart, and people will understand that you're an honest broker because it's not about you, it's about the science and understanding that, but communicating that you need their knowledge and their perceptions to in order to make that go forward together. Yeah.
Thanks, Jen. That was lovely. PB.
No, I think Magak and Jan already has synthesized everything. These are such important points. Just kind of, putting the final stitch into this discussion, saying that, for meaningful co-development, every stakeholder is equally important. So the stakeholders should be honored, and the engagement process should continue. And that would lead to a successful outcome. Of course, there'll be ups and downs in this journey, no doubt, just like any scientific journey or any journey is. But I think we learn a lot in the process. So yes, it's something that we keep doing it because we care for it.
Thank you. So with that, I think we might wrap up a little bit early unless, are there any final words that any of our panelists would like to share? If not, just want to say thank you so much to Jan, PB, and Magak for your presentations and taking the time to share from your experiences. I think it's really interesting, even though you are all working in different continents with different groups, there are some similarities in the challenges and best practices that you've had in your experiences with co-development. So thank you for sharing that with everyone, and we really enjoyed hearing from you all.
Thank you, Alex,
Thank you.
for putting this panel together and for putting this concept out to everyone. And thanks to everyone listening.
Thank you so much. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carly, who's going to wrap up this session for us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. And thank you to all of our speakers. This was such a wonderful conversation, and I think it's going to spur a lot more research in co-development practices, which is fantastic in our community. We also would like to thank you, our audience, for joining us for OA Week 2025. Please don't forget to consult our website via the QR code on the left-hand side to register for any other sessions that may interest you. I believe we have one more today, which is the North American Hub session, and several other sessions throughout the week that are very exciting. If you would like to stay up to date with the GOA-ON community, consider signing up as a GOA-ON member. You can use the QR code on the right-hand side there. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good. Good to see everyone.
Thanks, everyone.